I 100% agree. There are people like you are going to make friends and stuff. I think the trickiest part, especially for first years, is putting yourself in situations where you can establish those connections because it's absolutely terrifying to walk into a room where you know absolutely no one, but that's what you have to do. I'm someone who I moved around schools a lot when I was younger, so by the time that I was a first year in college, I was just so used to being the new kid that I wasn't personally as terrified of making new friends because it was an environment I was very used to. And literally the way that I made a lot of my friends is that my roommate and I joked that we should do like a sand volleyball team because there's a sand volleyball court right outside of our dorm room. And a girl in one of my classes said in class one day that she and her roommate were starting a team. So I talked to her and I was like, we would love to join. And that is how I met my best friends. Because and I'm not even athletic. I was just like sand volleyball would be fun because I need to meet people. So it's really taking risks and getting involved in things that maybe you never thought you would just to meet people. And worst case scenario, you don't really click with people and you move on and you find someone else. So just throw yourself out there, get involved in things that interest you. Like you will find people 100%.
Yeah, I also agree. I think it really depends. When it comes to commuter students, I was a part of an office that used to specifically have programs and events for commuter students because of that specific aspect of creating community. I think when universities and institutions take that in mind and actually create programs around commuter students, it's bringing that aspect to them without them having to be on campus. A lot of institutions are studying or are creating programs like this so that this is not a gap for students, that they can still find people and still make friends, regardless whether they're on campus or not.
And I completely agree. I think um, as far as I guess community goes and community building, and just finding your people, I think both options, all options as far as living options in college, is really down to your effort, right? Because you could stay on campus and just sit in your dorm all day, uh, and it won't change a thing, right? It could be the same as you sitting at home. So it does come down to, and if you guys should have, or if you did come out to the, I think it was the clubs and organizations chat, that one was pretty fun. And we kind of went over that a little bit more, but without repeating myself, I would just say that I think that it is somewhat a personal effort and your ability to kind of step out of your comfort zone. And I think you can do it either way. I would say it's probably going to be just a little bit harder being a commuter, but I definitely think if you put in the effort, you can still, um, and that's being living off campus or living at home. I think it's just because you'll lose a little bit of time, and it's not as simple as just walking outside of your dorm to the nearest open area and finding a bunch of clubs doing stuff. You'll have to do a little more searching, but I definitely think it's something you can become involved in. Because I was very involved at my community college, and again, I lived at home at the time, so I think it's definitely possible. It's all just about effort. And can you guys hear me? Okay.
Oh my God, Tina, we didn't hear any of that. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I actually got scared.
No, we did. And to pivot just a little bit, and of course, finance is always going to be a primary factor in why students either choose to live at home or commute. And so one of the students was asking in the chat if I don't know if you guys would have the answer to this, but does living on campus or living off campus affect your financial aid at all? For example, if you get financial aid or scholarships from a specific college, do those typically have restrictions on you either living at home or living, in a dorm?
It definitely does have an effect on financial aid. I think when I applied to go away for college, they asked a question. I think Ash actually answered in the chat that they ask you in FAFSA whether you are going to be living on or off campus. It depends on whatever information that's you're giving into the FAFSA. But when it comes to like grants that the government gives, those can be altered. But also too, I'm not really sure how it works with loans, but I know student loans is usually the majority of what FAFSA gives, depending on your certain situation. But yeah, it definitely affects it for sure.
I was going to say, I interestingly had a very different experience with that personally, and maybe because I don't have the option to live off campus. But for me, because I'm going to be an RA next year, I am actually, my work study award was only a certain amount of money that I could make like total throughout the year. But the stipend that I'm earning as an RA is much, much higher than that work study award that I otherwise would be allowed to receive. And it's a lot more work too, yes, but financially, like, that was the best decision for me,